Welcome back. Well, did you know that fast-pitch softball, a sport now played by tens of millions worldwide, has a rich 129-year history that includes incredible women who made the game? Author Erica Wesley is here with me to talk about this amazing book that she's written. Erica, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So I know we were chatting a little bit on commercial break. You actually reside in Tucson now.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so I'm so glad you didn't have to go far to come to our show today.
Right.
But it's such a great book. I know I was reading through it a little bit yesterday, and I'm just so curious as to why this was a topic that you felt so strongly about to write a book.
Well, I grew up watching baseball. My dad's a huge baseball fanatic, but I didn't know that much about softball until I was an adult and I started watching the college tournament on ESPN one year. I got really sucked into it, and I was really curious about the differences between the two sports, and I kind of had some misconceptions about it. Like I think a lot of people I've talked to do, where they think because women play it that its history was as kind of a watered-down version of baseball that they designed for women. But I found out that that wasn't the case at all, that it was invented by men in the 1880s, and that it was one of the really important team sports for women throughout the 20th century. So I was just really intrigued by that history and wanted to tell the stories of some of these female athletes who played that sport.
Well, I know I was really surprised to see just how old of a sport it is. And we do really kind of associate it with a women's sport. Why do you think that is?
Well, it used to be played by men and women up until pretty late into the 1960s, and there were hundreds of thousands of teams in the U.S., and they were really competitive and played in these huge national tournaments. But men eventually, because they had the option of also playing baseball, and women were primarily excluded from baseball historically, for various reasons. You know, baseball was professional, softball was amateur, so it was a little more open to women, and it was more of a community game, and so people were more supportive of the women playing because they were their neighbors, family members. They knew them, and so they were more accepting of them. And so it was huge, very important for women. And then men eventually started playing more slow-pitch softball recreationally, and the women stuck with fast pitch. And then it got preserved as a college sport after Title IX was passed in the 70s.
Right, and that's kind of when you fell in love with it in college as well, when you were, right? I think we were talking about commercial break. Yeah.
Well, I didn't play in college, but yeah, I love watching the college.
A big fan.
Yeah,
obviously.
exactly. A huge fan of the college tournament, which is on ESPN every year. They just wrapped it up recently in Oklahoma City, and it's just really exciting. It's faster than baseball in a lot of ways because it's only 7 innings instead of 9, and the bases are closer together, so there's often really fast base running plays.
Yeah, no, definitely an exciting sport to watch. So yeah. I agree with you there. Now, I know you mentioned in your book, you as you were researching, you kind of came upon a couple of pretty interesting characters. Can you tell us about one?
Sure. One of my favorites is Bertha Reagan Ticky, she was just so fascinating to me because she was a pitcher, and she got started in the late 1930s, and she grew up in a farm community with 6 brothers playing baseball and later softball, and then in the 50s got recruited to play for this company team in Connecticut. So they offered her a job, they paid for her to fly across the country with her daughter, which at that time was kind of unheard of. Flying was really only for the rich and elite. And she stayed in this nice summer house there. So really incredible opportunities that I had no idea that women were getting to do in sports at that time.
Wow. So, and I'm guessing you dive into even more characters in your book, so we don't want to give it all away.
Right.
But I'm curious as to if you talk about any teams from Arizona in your book.
Yes, and there's one in particular, the Phoenix Ramblers, they were a women's team that started in the 30s, went on through the 1960s, and they were incredible. They won a few national tournaments, and there was a pitcher named Billie Harris who's mentioned in the book. She was one of the first really prominent African-American players in fast-pitch softball, and she was from Tucson originally, and then got recruited to play for that Phoenix team, and eventually moved up there just to play for that team.
Oh, wow, very cool.
Yeah,
is that her right there?
Yeah,
that's
in her
awesome.
Phoenix Ramblers uniform, so that's in the 50s.
Oh, that's great. Well, before we run out of time, I want to touch on a quick topic. Now, softball used to be part of the Olympics, but it's not anymore. Why is that?
It got voted out of the Olympics in 2005, so 2008 was the last time that it appeared, and softball and baseball were both eliminated, and it was really controversial at the time because sports weren't eliminated from the Olympics back at that time. And so hopefully it'll be back for 2020. And so the next Summer Olympics, which will be in Japan, softball's huge in Japan.
Yeah.
So the hope is that it'll be back.
Yeah. And then I know that there was a pretty big deal as far as a pitcher getting an impressive contract. Tell us about that real quick before I let you go.
Sure. That pitcher's Monica Abbott, and she plays in the professional league in Japan. And then also here, there's a small professional women's softball league called the National Pro Fast Pitch League. And her contract is with this new team here in the U.S. in Houston, and it's a 6-year, $1 million contract. So
well, we hope to see some more of that in the future for these tough ladies. But Erica, in the meantime, I'm going to make sure our viewers know how to come see you in person and to get this great book. And I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And Erica Wesley will discuss and sign her book, Fast Pitch, tomorrow at 2 p.m. and at Antigone Books. For more details, log on to fastpitchthebook.com and antigonebooks.com.